Arcadian Vanguard presents The Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Thursday, September 21st, 2023. Good morning. I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin today with All Elite Wrestling, who presented Dynamite Grand Slam last night from Arthur Ashe Stadium inside the National Tennis Center in Flushing, Queens. In the main event, MJF retained the AEW World Heavyweight title and kept his pre-match promise by choking out Samoa Joe.
Get him out with it. As Paul Turner getting checked on the floor, but inside the ring. This going to help around the feet. Rough in here. Joe's out, guys. He's out. He's definitely out. Joe. He's done it. Samoa Joe is. He's out. MJF has done it.
After a ref bumped to the floor, MJF used wrist tape that he concealed with a rear naked choke to render his challenger unconscious at the 18-minute and 42-second mark. It was MJF's seventh defense of the title. Samoa Joe's Ring of Honor World Television title was not on the line. Adam Cole, who appeared late in the match on MJF's behalf, may have injured his ankle or foot as he jumped off the entrance ramp to the floor as he made his way to ringside. He was taken to a local hospital for treatment. Saraya also retained the AEW Women's World title by pinning Toni Storm following a DDT in 8 minutes and 53 seconds. In the first match of the night, New Japan Strong Openweight champion Eddie Kingston won the ROH World title from Claudio Castagnoli.
Strength as well. Of course, with the oh man, there's that back fist again. Hail Mary with the back fist. Kingston, the power bomb stops him. 2, 3. And he's done it.
The match went 15 minutes and 17 seconds. Castagnoli falls in his 11th defense. For Kingston, it was his second defense of the New Japan Strong title and his first ever ROH World Championship.
Switched. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I'll actually go for it again here. Phoenix, the second one. The cover. 1, 2, and 3. Ray Phoenix has done it.
And Ray Phoenix won the AEW International title by defeating Jon Moxley in 11 minutes 33 seconds after delivering a Phoenix driver. On today's Wrestling Observer Radio, it was reported that Moxley suffered a mild concussion during a spot outside the ring early in the match when Phoenix dove off the entrance ramp onto Moxley. The only non-title affair saw Chris Jericho defeat Sammy Guevara. After the bout, Guevara and Jericho shook hands, but Guevara turned on Jericho by kicking him low and then leaving the ring alongside his new manager, Don Callis. With some WWE Corporate news, here's the Wrestling News' Lou Kipilman.
WWE Executive Chairman Vince McMahon could still be in serious legal jeopardy, according to a story published Wednesday by the Los Angeles Times. Written by Stacy Perman, the feature chronicles McMahon's life, including his return to World Wrestling Entertainment this past January, the company's resulting sale to Endeavor, and the ongoing investigation of McMahon by the U.S. Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission. Perman quotes attorney Jacob Frenkel, who formerly served as senior counsel in the SEC's Division of Enforcement, as saying the inquiry could be, quote, much broader than the one company and its one majority shareholder, end quote. In August, WWE reported in an SEC filing that McMahon was served with a federal grand jury subpoena on July 17th, and a search warrant was executed on the 78-year-old executive chairman. In the filing, WWE noted that it believed the actions were taken, quote, concerning the investigation and related subject matters, end quote. Depending on the results of the government's investigation, Perman notes McMahon could still face criminal or civil liability, and could be prevented from serving in a position of authority with TKO Group Holdings. The Times story also quotes former WWE board member Ignace Lahoud about his departure from the company. WWE's filing with the SEC revealed Lahoud had stepped down in January, alongside fellow board member Manjit Singh, after McMahon had engineered his way back into the company. Said Lahoud, quote, it wasn't aligned with my way of seeing what governance is. There was a misalignment with what my values are, end quote. The Times noted that requests for comment were declined by McMahon, Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel, the SEC, and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Connecticut. For the Wrestling News, I'm Lou Kipilman.
In ratings news, despite being down from last week's numbers, this past Tuesday night's NXT drew its second largest total audience and the second highest key demographic rating in nearly 3 years. Anchored by appearances from the main roster's Becky Lynch and Dominic Mysterio, the show drew a total of 824,000 viewers to USA Network, which is down from 850,000 the week prior. NXT drew a .24 in the key 18 to 49-year-old demographic, which equates to 316,000 viewers. That number is also down from the previous week by 19,000 viewers on average. The September 12th edition of NXT scored the show's highest numbers since the October 28th, 2020 Halloween Havoc show. And we close with some independent wrestling news. Massachusetts-based Beyond Wrestling has dropped a Loser Leaves Town match against Mother Nature. Beyond Wrestling announced on social media that it would be canceling its Wrestling Beach Face event coming up this Sunday in Westerly, Rhode Island due to heavy rains being called for. On Twitter, the company posted, quote, "Unfortunately, the forecast for this weekend has taken a turn for the worse. It is projected to rain all day Saturday and Sunday, which means we've made the difficult decision to cancel the Beyond Wrestling on 9/24 show at Patty's Beach Club in Westerly, Rhode Island," end quote. The National Weather Service is predicting between 2 to 4 inches of rain for portions of eastern New England throughout this weekend and into next week. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.